lovely to see you all. As Barbara said, I'm a healer, teacher, and guide of the Modern Mystery School, and I have my colleague here today, Lucy MacArthur. And so we're both going to be in this presentation with you. We are an ancient mystery school in the lineage of King Solomon. And King Solomon wanted to remind us of our divine being, that we are God. And so over 3,000 years ago, he called in all the healers, magi's, oracles, shamans, spiritual leaders from that time to create a universal practice that would work for anyone so they can connect to their Godhead. So regardless of their ethnicity, their nationality, their religion, their beliefs, their wealth status, their sexual preference, it had to work for everyone. And so for 30 to 40 years, they collaborated on creating this universal system of healings and teachings. So if it only worked for one person or one tribe, they threw it out. And so coming out of that, we got the life activation. And the life activation connects you to your divine blueprint to remind you of who you are and what your purpose is. It brings light down from source into your spiritual DNA, into your body, and then into your world. And from that, energies start to open within you. You bring in healing, you bring in healing genetic karma, you're strengthening your spiritual gifts because now you're reconnected, remembering who you are as a divine being, and you're raising your frequency and vibration because now you've filled your vessel with more light. And also coming out of that is Empower Thyself, which is a class that teaches you tools of empowerment to step into your Godhead. Because now you are connected, your lights are on, right? Like everything is like shining. You have more light. Your spiritual gifts are growing. What are you going to do with them, right? And so this class teaches you how to connect to your Godhead, remind you of who am I? Where did I come from? Where am I going? And what is my purpose? And we teach you tools of empowerment through learning the knowledge, also learning rituals to bring in divine protection, to bring in healing, and to bring in more clarity so that you can be balanced throughout your day. So these roller coaster days will now diminish and your days will go smooth. We also work on your spiritual strengths. And that is what we're going to talk about today, is working on your spiritual intuition. Because we all have the ability to have these spiritual gifts, these intuitions. And so Lucy is going to explain more about it, which is really exciting. And then we're going to do an exercise. But in this class, you start to build them up because even though you might think, I'm not connected to my spiritual gifts, or maybe I have one, it's possible for you to access all of them. And so you also learn how to call down the light. You're now going to be able to direct the light where you want that into your life. Be able to bring that light down for you and for everybody here on earth to create Shambhala. And that's our mission here, is to create Shambhala, create peace on earth. By doing so, you're stepping into your higher self, being fully empowered, embodying your gifts, knowing who you are. And at the end of that 2-day class, there is a sacred ceremony where there is a beautiful initiation. And through that initiation, you receive 10 times more light. And that 10 times more light is, I kind of compare it to when you now say a prayer. It is as if 10 people are praying. And so that's how powerful you are. And so, if you have a family member or even for yourself, when you pray for them, it's going to be 10 times more powerful. But also, whatever you put your effort into, now you have 10 times more power to create it, manifest it. It's going to accelerate faster for you. And you also receive an aura realignment. And that is going to align you with the will of God and the will of the universe. So things are now going to flow to you more easily for your highest good. So you're expanding your container of light. You are raising your frequency and vibration. And now you're going to be able to bring that light down and conduct it to wherever you want in your life. And so we're just going to touch on a little bit of it today, but how I experienced this in my life was that I was a VP of design at an iconic fashion company in San Francisco who created jeans. And I am an empath and intuitive, and I have been my entire life. And, when I hit around 40, my energy started to expand so much I didn't know how to manage it anymore. And unfortunately, the way I used to manage it before was very unhealthy because I was very uncomfortable with it. You know, I didn't want to see, I didn't want to feel. I could feel everybody's energies, and it was very draining to me. I didn't know how to turn it off. And, you know, I used to use, you know, alcohol, drugs to numb it because it made me feel that uncomfortable. I had to turn it off because it was really hard to function. You know, I just wanted to feel normal. And but after 40, that started to grow even more, and it was so overwhelming. I knew I needed to get help because, you know, here I am. I'm leading a brand. I'm training, you know, designers. I'm having to travel the world, whether I'm in factories or I'm shopping, and I no longer could do that because I was so drained, energetically and physically. And so a good girlfriend of mine who is an attorney, and I went to high school with her, so I, you know, trusted her. I was vulnerable enough to share with her my experience, and that was something that I had really kept to myself most of my life. I didn't like to share with anybody about my, you know, my gifts or what I was experiencing because I, you know, it felt weird. And she's like, you got to get a life activation. And then 2 weeks later, the class, Empower Thyself, is happening, and you got to take that class. And I was like, okay, well, these are things I've never heard about in my entire life. I, you know, come from corporate, you know, I have a very practical mind. And even though I've been in spirituality, this is all new to me. And so I did take the class. The next day, I had to go to Asia. I had to go to Seoul and Tokyo for work. And this is during the cherry blossom season festival. And so, and this is pre-COVID. So like tons of tourists, and it's beautiful. But I actually had to bring my husband with me because I needed help, like physical help, because I was so drained. And so, but I did the rituals and I did them in the hotel room. That night, we had the best sleep I've ever had in my life. We woke up and we were like, what was that? It was just so peaceful. It was so harmonious. We felt like we were in this warm cocoon. No outside energies came in, so I didn't feel anybody's energies from other rooms or whatever. And we were like, what was that? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, that was a little strange. And then I did the rituals before I went out shopping, you know, and I couldn't feel anybody's energies. I was like, what? I could, you know, like I would try to engage, and I was like, oh, I don't feel anything. And I can't hear anything. Like no thoughts were coming through. I only felt myself. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's so quiet. And I felt like I was so safe. And I felt I had more energy back because now I wasn't getting drained by other people's energies. You know, like if somebody was angry, I would feel their anger and I would think that I was angry. If somebody was sad, I would feel that sadness and I would start to cry. You know, if somebody was ecstatic or vibrant, and I would match that energy and I'd be like, yeah, party, you know. But it's not always, you know, your free will. At least I didn't think it was my free will. It is your free will, but I didn't feel like it was my free will. And so that proved to me that these tools worked. And so, I wanted to share that story because that is something that I think most of us may have experienced in this room. And these rituals and these initiations, they really do help. But it also helps you in other ways of your life. Everything becomes more alive. You become more joyful. Relationships heal. Everything that you desire, you're able to work towards in a more centered and balanced way, and you can achieve them a lot faster. So I'm going to have Lucy introduce herself, and then she is going to walk you through meditation. And at the end of that meditation, because we want you to get into a relaxed state, I'm going to come around with a stone, with a crystal, and we're going to do an exercise with that. So just know that towards the end of it, I'll let you know. Just you're going to hold out your hand and you're going to receive that stone. Okay? Left hand. Oh, yes, your left hand. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lucy MacArthur, and I am a guide in the Modern Mystery School, just like Leah. And I'm going to share a little bit of my backstory on how I got there, and then I'm going to lead you all through a meditation. So, similar to Leah, I felt a lot of energy all the time, and I felt really drained in social situations to the point where sometimes I didn't want to be around people because I was like, it's just easier. It's just easier to not engage. But after I did the life activation, and the reason why I did it is, again, I also had a friend who I was going to school with. I was becoming a teacher. And she was in the school already, and I kept on being like, oh, like I kept on I kept on retreating and doing all of these things to like more self-isolate. And she was like, you know what, I think you could really use a life activation. And I was like, no. And she told me again, and I was like, no. So I always say, like, if you ever feel called to have a shift, it's when you're ready to do it. And someone might just say something and it's just planting a seed, but it doesn't mean it has to be today. It's whenever you're ready to have a shift happen. Because before the shift happens, you know what your life is. You know, it's like the life you know. And taking a shift sometimes means that you know it's going to change. And that sometimes is the hardest aspect of it. And I knew, I kind of, even though I hadn't dabbled in spirituality at all, I was like, I know if I do this, it's going to be different. And so I was really hesitant. But when I did it, I went home to my family and I spent time with my family, and I felt amazing. And they were saying all the things, like doing all their little jabs that they would normally do. And I was like, I feel great. Like, I can connect with you and I can be there with you. And I'm not getting affected the way that I used to, but I can still love you and have it. But it's a different relationship. It's not. And I also realized I wasn't doing things in order to get a certain response anymore, because I didn't need to. And then I actually felt like people were able to be more themselves, and I could connect with them in a different way. So it in my own relationships, it felt like it was more authentic. And then I ended up taking Empower Thyself similarly a week or two later. And the reason why I took that class is because I was training to be a teacher, and I had read a book by Rudolf Steiner, and who was in a Waldorf school. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but in that book, he just talked about the importance of being your higher self when you're standing in front of children, that you want to be the most light-filled, embodied, the truest version of who you are, because everyone around you is like a little sponge. And so that's what drove me forward to take that class, because in that class, you learn how to connect with your higher self. And your higher self is basically your most trusted advisor. And it completely changed how I related to the entire world, because if I had a deep question, or I needed to make a big shift in my life, or if I just needed to know what I should be prepared for that day, I would go into my sanctuary meditation, I would talk to my higher self, and I would have this like calm and understanding of what I needed to do. And if I made a decision, I actually made it with a lot of confidence, because I knew it was going to be okay. And that feeling of knowing it was going to be okay really shifted everything. And I'm excited to lead you through a little bit more of a meditation. But the other thing that we learned in that class is not just stilling your mind and like having that peace or knowing, it's also increasing your awareness of what's going on. So for some of us, we might be really sensitive to energy or sight or sound or smell. And in that class, you actually strengthen all of your physical senses, because they're all tied to your spiritual senses. And some people might walk in thinking, again, like, oh, I might not have a spiritual gift. Well, I would say it's the same thing with sports. Like, I was a sports background. So some people are really gifted athletes, but actually most Olympians were always the ones that were not the best, and they trained the most. So it doesn't mean that if you have a natural gift, that's wonderful and you should strengthen that, but you can learn from having two left feet. That's how you learn any new skill, any new thing. You're training to make something unnatural natural to you. And in that class, beforehand, I never had a sense of smell. And after you're in that class, you actually learn how to develop your sense of smell and train it. So I trained it every day for 3 months in the way that it was handed down to me. And now I am so good at smelling things to the point where I'm like, wow, this is actually like a lot. But what is interesting is you learn so much. Like when your senses are open, you're actually more perceptive of what's actually happening. So for smell beforehand, I never realized all of the information that was coming through that sense. But if you walk into a room, how does it smell? Does something smell funny? Does something smell great? Does it there's so much that comes through, and it's not something that you see. But then it also trains your spiritual sense as well. So there's always a sense that it's related to. So for seeing, you might have clairaudience or clairvoyance. Thank you. Or hearing, it might be clairaudience. Thank you. I love you. So it's one of those things that you want to be able to have that stillness and be able to go in and know exactly who you are and what you're doing and why you're doing it. But the more aware you are of the world, the more you can take care of it and be present in every single moment and like live it to the fullest. Like we're not here to have like a boring life. We're here to really enjoy it. So on that note, I'm going to have you guys relax. We're going to go through the meditation. So I'm just going to have you put your feet on the floor. You can have your hands resting, just palms facing up, and closing your eyes and just taking 3 deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Relaxing each time that you breathe. Breathing in good energy and light. Breathing out any stress, worry, or negativity from the body. Relaxing deeper each time that you breathe. Continuing to breathe until you come to the most relaxed state you have ever experienced. I'm going to have you focus on your feet and quietly to yourself say, feet, relax.
Feet, relax.
Feet, relax.
Feet, relax.
Feet, relax.
Feet, relax.
And you can say this to yourself out loud. It might sound weird, but it's good. Legs, relax.
Legs, relax.
Legs, relax.
Legs, relax.
Legs, relax.
Legs, relax. And it's good to follow the prompts and follow along and say the relaxing words to yourself out loud, because all magic is spoken.
Hips, relax.
Hips, relax.
Hips, relax.
Hips, relax.
Hips, relax.
Hips, relax.
Lower back, 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 relax.
Belly, relax.
Belly, relax.
Belly, relax.
Belly, relax.
Belly, relax.
Belly, relax.
Upper back, 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 relax.
Shoulders, relax.
Shoulders, relax.
Shoulders, relax.
Shoulders, relax.
Shoulders, relax.
Shoulders, relax.
Arms and hands, 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 relax.
Face, 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 relax.
Entire body, 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 relax.
Entire being, relax. Entire being, relax.
Entire being, relax.
Entire being, relax.
Entire being, relax.
Continuing to breathe, check in with yourself, and continue to relax. You can hold out your left hand as we're going around. We'll be giving you some. Yeah, that's not it. Do you want to know if your eyes closed? No.
Okay, that's okay. So go ahead and select a stone with your left hand, keeping your eyes closed. And we'll let you know when we're in front of you. For those of you who have a stone, go ahead and start connecting with it, holding it in your left hand. Keeping your eyes closed. Do you feel a sensation in your hand? Maybe a warmth, or maybe a vibration, a change in temperature. How about in your body? Does it feel differently in your body anywhere? Feeling a sensation? Taking a deep breath. Do you feel anything in the root chakra? That would be at your feet. Checking in, do you feel anything in your hara? That would be what some people call the sacral chakra around your abdomen. Do you feel any sensations around your solar plexus, around your belly? Or maybe in your heart, in your heart chakra? Moving up, do you feel anything in your throat chakra? Taking a deep breath, do you feel a sensation in your third eye chakra? Or perhaps the top of your head in your crown chakra? Does it happen to remind you of a memory? Or perhaps a story that's been going on in your mind? Really connecting to that stone, breathing into it. Does it remind you of anything? Perhaps a place? Maybe a person? Or a situation? Breathing in and relaxing. Letting the energy flow through you. Feeling the stone. Can you sense what texture it is? Can you sense maybe a color? Maybe two colors? Not overthinking it, just the first color that comes to your mind, what you're sensing. Now gently coming back to the room. You're going to open your eyes and look at the stone in your hand. How was that experience? Okay. Does anybody want to share? Do you want to share?
Yeah, I just had there's a lot of stillness and peace. I felt it first in my root and my sacral, and then once you started guiding us, it just came going up and up all the way up. And when you told me, when you say what color was that, I guessed that one.
And that happens often. So sometimes your chakras get too open, and so you just want to kind of bring them back in a little bit closer. Checking in with your neighbor. Get out of my way.
That's powerful.
Who else wants to share? Yes.
So the first time when I was imagining it, I just saw purple. And then I saw an amethyst. It's hers. And then I just saw a lot of purple. And I'm all like, is that my aura? What am I seeing? And then I saw a heart-shaped rock. It was pink, and then on it was with gold lettering. It says I, heart, I. I'm like, oh, and then me.
Oh, yeah.
So that was interesting.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Do you want to share a little bit more about
Sure.
like how you would interpret that, maybe?
Oh, well, it's interesting in general, like what comes up through these exercises. I would actually just share that you can train yourself to sense the frequency or the energy of each thing that you're interacting with. And I mean, women, we have a proclivity to like be able to feel things around in our bag and like know what they are. We have an advantage in that way, but there's also something, it's something that you can actually train to be able to see color, to feel the frequency of color, to be able to know what something is without your visual sight. So it's like a sense of touch, but also attuning to that frequency. But for each one, like with love, what I heart I feel like that's very like, especially with the pink, it's more related to love, and love always starts at the center. So that's what's probably going to be radiating out.
And then we study Kabbalah, and that's something that we teach. We do a 10-month ascension program, and in it, it relates to crystals and colors. It's everything of the universe that God created. And so purple and also the heart relates back to the Sephiroth of Tiferet, which is related to Archangel Raphael, which is healing and the heart. So, yeah. Who else wants to share? Was that experience positive?
Feel more relaxed.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any questions for us? As we've shared a lot with you today, but is there anything that piqued your interest or that you wanted to learn more of? Or yes.
You keep talking about we're late. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay.
There's traffic. You were talking about the classes you went to. Is this something you're going to share with us, or you shared at the beginning of the class? So I apologize.
Yeah, that's okay. Leah did share a little bit at the beginning, but yes, we both teach a class called Empower Thyself. And in that class, as Leah shared, you learn a lot of different tools and rituals, but one of them that we kind of touched on a little bit today was growing your spiritual intuition. So you can kind of be more connected to everything. Yeah.
Where is it at?
So Leah is doing one
in Mountain View on March 29th and 30th.
Okay.
and I'm doing one in April in Sacramento. So if you're interested in connecting with us, we're going to be here like all day. If you ever just want to have a talk with us one-on-one, we're going to be at our booth, and we'd love to have you come by and just connect a little bit more.
And we do have more time. So does anybody want to share if they got the color right on their stone? You back there? A couple people back over here.
All right, who got their color wrong?
Okay.
Okay.
I got another
Okay, I just say that because I got my color wrong when I did this exercise the first time, the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time, the sixth time, but the seventh time. I got it. So it's one of those things that like you're not wrong for like any aspect of it. It's just training yourself to be able to use that sense, which is not something like you're learning typically in your primary school. Maybe you do, but it's something that we can learn whenever we start to learn it. But is there anything that you guys are interested like in learning more that we could answer? Yes.
So what do you do with this learning that you do?
Okay. Do you want to answer or do you want me to start?
Yeah, so for me, when you can tap into your intuition, it does give you a sense of knowing. For instance, I've gotten several warnings in my life, which have been very beneficial. So one of them was a little bit unsettling. For instance, as a young child, I was qualified to take a gifted class, right? And but in elementary school, so it wasn't like spiritual gift. It was,
the gifted
program, right? And most parents and most kids will be like, yeah, I'm going to take that program. But I met the teacher, and he did not feel good. He didn't give me good vibes. I told my mom, I don't. He feels yucky.
Yeah.
I don't want to take that class. And she's like, are you sure? Like, this is a big program. Like, it's going to help you. And I was like, no. And luckily, you know, she was very compassionate, and she was like, okay, well, you don't have to go if you don't want to. Now, several years later, once we finished high school, unfortunately, we found out that several of my classmates who I was friends with, they were assaulted by the teacher. And he had been doing it for several years, and there was a big lawsuit against him. And so, you know, when you can tap into, sometimes it's a feeling, sometimes it's a knowing, sometimes you can see something, it can give you those senses. Now, another time it happened to me where I had, you know, my mortgage, my house mortgage. I didn't realize that the bank had sold my mortgage to another lender. And I thought it was, you know, just like junk mail.
Yeah.
And so I kept on paying. Finally, I get a call from the creditor, and they're like, well, actually, sorry, before I got the call, I had 3 visions, and each of them had to do with like an earthquake or something I wasn't prepared for. So one of them was like, I was in the bathroom and then an earthquake happened. And it's like the worst possible time. You're like, oh my God, there's nothing I can do. Like, you know, so like the ground underneath me kept on shaking. And then I had another one where it was like something in the house was wrong. The house was shaking. And so my spirit guides were like telling me like, you know, there's something wrong with your foundation, something wrong with the house. And then I get a call from the creditor, and they're like, you are late on your mortgage payments for 3 months. You haven't paid, and your house is about to be possessed and go into foreclosure. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I wasn't aware that my mortgage got sold, but I remembered those visions. And I had that heads up, like, hey, there's something wrong with the house, something wrong with the foundation, be aware. And so when that call actually came in, I actually like connected with those, like, oh, okay, well, this now makes sense. Now I know I need to start paying attention to my intuition. And luckily I was able to pay my mortgage and get it all settled that day. But yeah, I mean, these can be things like that where it's like, whoa, you know, it's a warning. Or it could be like, you know, for instance, I had a vision of the house I was going to buy. Like I saw the house in my vision. And so when my husband went to go shopping for a house, I was in Tokyo at the time, and he showed me some photos of the houses he reviewed. And I was like, that's the house. And he was like, how do you know? And I was like, because I saw it in a vision. And then this is like, you know, during the high, when the mortgages were, you know, everyone's selling for really high. I was like, no, we're going to make an offer that's actually lower than the asking price. And our real estate agent was like, you're insane. Like, what are you doing? And I was like, no, I have a feeling that we're going to be able to get it for lower than the asking price. And it was like several tens of thousands of dollars lower than the asking price. And sure enough, our offer was accepted. And it was because, which we had not known, was that 2 offers had fallen through previously. And the owner was anxious to sell the house. And so we got the house for, you know, less than the asking price, which is unusual in you know, the Bay Area. So that's how, you know, for me, in my experience, how my intuition has been like so beneficial, so valuable. And it's something that I've learned I need to listen to. And again, sometimes it's a vision, sometimes it's a feeling, sometimes, you know, so as you start to strengthen it, you start to identify, you know, where do I feel it in my body? Where, you know, where does it relate to in my life? And then you can start to build trust and confidence in yourself and know that you're not crazy.
Also, to your point on like what the tools are that you get in that class, it's everything. So from everything that you could think of that you would need to do to have a beautiful day, we have rituals where you're learning how to protect your energy, to uplift your energy, to, oh, I'm having a negative thought, it's starting to go this way, I have something to shift it immediately so I don't even have to go down that road. I have something that if I'm feeling a certain way, I can do a ritual and I can tell if it's me feeling that way or if it's somebody else. And then if it's cleared, then I'm like, that wasn't even my stuff to begin with. We have enough stuff rather than taking anyone else's. But then also like you're connecting with your higher self every day. So everything that you're learning in that class is to help you be able to live life in a beautiful way where you're able to be present in the moment and enjoy it and not necessarily have undue stress from everyday life, which we all go through. We all go through a lot of noise and dust to get through to where we need to go. But it's nice to have a little bit of extra protection, but also sparkle in being able to see, like, kind of like, also it's training ourselves to like be able to see the beauty in life and to really enjoy life to the fullest. But for me, it was like going from kind of having gray glasses or like thinking about everything that was going to be going wrong to being really hopeful and connecting with people from that place. And it really changed everything. Yeah.
And for me, I do want to tap more into my gifts because I know that's my purpose. So it's
Yeah.
the same. Like it's just helping you.
Yeah.
To
And beforehand, like I said, could not smell. That's all I have to say.
Well, the other thing too is, and it sounds really strange. It sounds strange to me when I was, made aware of this class and life activation, all of it, is that, the initiation, like, what is that? Like that sounds really strange. And, but through that, you do receive 10 times more light. And I didn't understand what that meant or how important that was. But I remember my old life and, I would be driving, to San Francisco from my house, in my hybrid BMW, stressed out, going, I wish I didn't have to do this. I hate my life. I'm so, I'm so overwhelmed. I have so much anxiety. I'm so responsible for so much. And when I received these tools and I started to see them work in my life and I started to be more in joy, and then everything started to like just expand and grow, that 10 times, like, it felt more than 10 times. I understood like what 10 times meant. It was like, okay, well, it's like I have 1 cup of water. My cup of water is like really low. I'm so stressed out. And now I have like 10 full cups of water. So I'm constantly feeling nourished. I'm constantly feeling hydrated. The water is never ending. If I'm feeling stressed at any time, I can go within. I don't need to go to anybody else outside of me. I can do it in the moment. If I'm going through a spin in my head, I'm like, oh my God, this thing's going to happen. And I go through negativity. I can do a ritual. It's gone immediately. Or I can get a healing and it helps me to push through what I need to do. And so I finally felt like I wasn't alone. And I have a big support system. I have my husband, I have my family, but I still felt like I was alone. And I felt like I was carrying so much weight. And after, when I started to see how it started coming in my life, I was like, I am safe. I can go move forward. I'm not scared anymore. And I feel good. I feel so much joy. I mean, even my husband noticed. He's like, what did you do? Because can you imagine, like, this is me driving to work and we used to carpool together and he's like, we'd always argue and it was just bad. Like, he's like, why are you less stressed? Why do you have less anxiety now? And I was like, oh, I don't know. And I was like, wait, I did that thing. I was like, I got that like activation. And I took that class because I didn't actually tell him. Because he was, he came from a very Christian family and his father's a pastor, so I didn't really tell him what I was doing. And so he goes, well, I want it. And so he did it too.
oh my God.
Yeah. So yeah.
I think that's, let me know what the time is. But I would add to that where it's like the things that were mountains or like molehills, like they will shrink and you can just step over them. But you can see them for what they are. Your perception of like what you think is possible for you to do changes. And you have then all of these tools not to only like sustain your life, but make those changes and sustain changes. Like not just like breakthrough, but like I'm going to keep on going. I have that motivation to keep pushing forward and keep on refining like who I am. So I can ultimately, all of us want to serve people more, like at a deeper level, but it always starts with ourselves. We have to get to that place of really juicing ourselves up, and then we can help in a more beautiful way because we actually have something to give. We're not giving from like, we're like, take my last blood. We're like, no, we have an abundance, and then we can actually truly share.
And many of you are healers in this room. I can sense that you have that very that healing energy, and you want to help others. And this really paved a way. I didn't come into this path to actually heal somebody else. I was like, I just want to heal myself. But you really can only start to, love someone else or heal someone else with the capacity that you have within you. So how much you love yourself is how much then you can extend that love to others. But again, when you see that 10 times more light, now I love myself so 10 times more. And then it keeps on expanding because I keep on growing it by doing my rituals and using my tools. And now I have so much where I'm like, I want to share it with everyone. You know, I want to share it with you. I want to share it with you because I don't want my life just to be good. I want everyone's lives to be good. And I want everyone to feel their authentic self, right? Because I'm sure people felt like me like beforehand, you know, kind of stressed out and crazy. I mean, that was crazy. And so like, if I could do that for somebody else to like reach out and be like, here's some light. You know, you are beautiful. You have talents that need to be shared with this world. You can do that for yourself and also extend it to your family, extend it to your friends. So yeah, grow that light within you. And
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.